For average tourists visiting Baja Sur, their travels are confined to the highways connecting Los Cabos to La Paz. But those who are more intrepid take the winding and bumpy roads less traveled, exploring the more remote reaches of the map, the secluded beaches, tranquil hikes, and the many charming pueblitos, little towns with their own unique charm and character. Among these more remote destinations in Baja Sur, one of the most popular ones is the breathtaking Bay of La Ventana. Though not as busy as Los Cabos or La Paz, people do indeed come from all over the world to visit it. And it's not for tacos or tequila, though plenty of both can be found. Strange as it may sound, they come here for the wind. La Ventana feels like something out of Avatar: The Last Airbender, a temple where adventurous benders come to practice and play. If you stand on the shore and look out across the sea on a day when the wind is strong and consistent, the sky will be overrun with enormous kites, most between 10 and 20 feet wide, all gracefully gliding 60 to 90 feet above the water as though performing some mystical ballet. As you lower your gaze to the surf, you'll see tiny figures racing back and forth on short, stubby boards at speeds that sometimes exceed 30 miles per hour, all with their arms outstretched as if pulling themselves to the heavens. This is kiteboarding, and it's the reason people come from all over the world to this tiny one-road town at the edge of Baja Sur. From November to April, the area has some of the best winds in the world due to its wonderfully strange topography.
We've got something what is called the Venturi Effect. So the island against the mountain makes a bit of a funnel, you know?
Basically, the bay is sandwiched between two small mountain ranges, one that overlooks the town from behind and one that rises up out of the bay, forming Isla Cerralvo.
And then the wind comes, squeeze, and then comes out stronger.
Jose knows an awful lot about wind because he's the owner of Nomad Kite School, one of the largest and most well-reviewed kite schools in town. From November to April, hundreds of La Ventana's vacationers spend their sunny mornings and afternoons learning from Jose and his instructors how to lasso the wind.
I've been kite surfing for 1 year and I'm obsessed. I put a good solid month into it of kiting almost every day there was wind to get the hang of it because there's a steep learning curve.
Cynthia is from Canada. She's kited there, Brazil, Australia, and obviously in La Ventana. She travels all over the world for this because it's more than a hobby. It's a calling that has truly redefined her life.
I am a different person. I was someone who didn't have a passion outside of work, and now I live my life chasing the wind. I'm a flight attendant. I take time off to go kite between flights, and I go home and I pack my bags, and then I go to work. After work, I go home, pack my bags, and I go on a kite trip. My whole life is in the air.
Walking around the beach in front of Jose's school, you find pretty quickly that it's normal for Jose's customers to say things like this.
People come happy because they leave their jobs, they leave their stressful life, and they trust you with the entertainment. Some of them wants to become a kiter, a winger, a foiler. Some others, they're just here for fun, for the moment. And we have customers, they have been coming here for years. They still can kite. They're lovely people and they don't mind. They cannot practice anywhere else. They only can come here for a week.
Now, the magic of La Ventana is bigger than kiteboarding, and you feel it before you even get to town. Starting from La Paz, after about 30 minutes of easy driving through the rocky desert, the elevation starts to increase and the road begins to wind and curve as if you're undergoing a volatile transition of being from one reality to another. Suddenly, you make it around the last turn on the other side of the mountain, and your eyes take flight across the bay stretching out beneath you. As you descend down the hillside, marveling at the vastness of the vista, the big city bustle of the modern world feels left behind and forgotten.
Coming from the city, you have all the things that money can buy. You have fast internet, you have, I want to say good roads, but you have just roads. And a lot of insecurity, a lot of eyes looking at whatever.
Tino came to La Ventana from the bright, busy lights of Mexico City. He'd been very successful there with a blossoming empire of small businesses, restaurants, music venues, skate parks that were all dedicated to community enrichment. But everything changed during the pandemic. You see, Tino is a dissident mystic, a warrior poet at heart. When he started his first business, he made a deal with the gods that he would not worship or hoard money, that he would build businesses that served his community and invest all profits back into the community. But this idealism left him tragically vulnerable to the financial hardships of COVID lockdown policies. And after watching so much of his life's work collapse all around him, Tino needed to rebuild himself and restore his spirit. Luckily for him, and for La Ventana, the winds of fate blew him to this breezy little corner of Baja Sur.
When I got here, I was first moved by the beauty, the blues, the turquoise blues, and the forest of cardones and everything. Little I knew about the energy that this desert really has, One day that I was walking through this actual pathway, and I felt how the plants, the plants here are aggressive. They take care of each other. But that day I was being held on by them, I was just walking down this alley. I felt how they were grabbing me, with their spines, and I was just walking through them. I felt just this energy that brought me to my knees, and that's when I felt that it picked me. It picked me to take care of it, more than me being the one that picked the land and conquered it. I felt that it was actually asking me to take care of it, to take care of it and to use it and to share it with everybody.
Tino didn't take this calling lightly. He and Fernanda bought a few acres of cactus-covered land and cleared just barely enough of it to begin building their next business. Tino calls it a temple of conspiration, but to folks who only see with their eyes, they'd probably call it a restaurant.
We're just the excuse so that when you come, you just have a good time with the people you're with, to talk about things you hardly ever talk. We have the elixirs that help you do that. We have wonderful coffee. We have very good wines. We play the game so that it all looks square and very beautiful in the picture, but there's actually more happening in the background, Your soul is taking over your mind, and then when you let your soul take over your mind, then the conversation elevates from just words to magical moments.
Yeah.
The restaurant they build is unlike any other. Even though the building is only about a year old, it carries that ancient sense of sacredness, lifting your soul as you arrive and telling you you are home. One reason for that is there's a deep, obvious reverence for nature that informs the building's design. The walls are lined with windows and sliding doors that are all usually left open. The exterior is painted Moroccan orange with natural pigments and blurs into the mirage of the surrounding desert. Trees and cacti grow right up next to the building, and despite how high the ceilings are on the inside, the building is shorter than the tallest cardones that encircle it. In fact, the building embraces its natural surroundings so well that you're likely to miss it from the road.
I've missed it, you surely will miss it. I tell you, it's difficult. It's difficult to find it. We tried to make it a place where we'll be sheltered by the nature around it, and we're giving respect to the elders around it too, that are the cardones that will be here for 150, 200 years. And asking for them for shelter, we tried to build the place shorter than them, and we knew that when you were passing or you're walking around it, we'll be sheltered by it, we'll be protected by them, because there's so many that even if you're far away, you just won't see it, You'll have to be careful and be searching for it to really make it appear.
The other reason their restaurant feels so overwhelmingly special is the deep love for the human experience that resonates through the space. Tino, Fernanda, and their friends are so spiritually powerful and so fiercely loving, and they poured so much of themselves into the building, its bricks and windows, its mortar and paint, even its decorations and furnishings, all done by hand, by their hands. To them, it's not a building, it's a temple. It's not a business, it's a fellowship. And their food is not a product, it's art. Maybe even more than art, it's medicine. Something filled with the intention to heal and inspire.
And everybody's welcome because everybody has an artist within them, We want this to be a hub for the discovery of your inner artist.
When it was time to name their Temple of Conspiration, Tino and Fernando reflected on what they hoped their new space would provide to their future guests. They chose pólvora, which is Spanish for gunpowder.
What we serve is gunpowder, and you decide what you do with that powder, that gunpowder. Some people use it to hunt, some people use it to protect, some people use it to compete. I don't know what kind of person you're going to be with that gunpowder in your hands.
It's fitting that pólvora is the first stop on the way into town because it really seems like that's what La Ventana gives people. Gunpowder. Whether you're there for a weekend or for the rest of your life, you'll burn brighter than you did before you came. There's something surreal about it. It has the familiarity and charm of a small rural village, but the wide-eyed, tie-dyed weirdness of the most freshly gentrified district of some hip metropolis. It feels like a different world, so much so that you might find yourself musing that maybe it is not in this dimension at all. And if it is indeed in this dimension, then maybe all of the cartographers throughout history got it wrong. Surely the world ends right here, just on the other side of Cerralbo. Surely La Ventana is that tiny spot on the globe where all the lines taper and meet, where the violent forces of nature collide. And maybe that's why all the dreamers and thrill-seeking misfits all get pulled here on the wind. Now, speaking of things that done got caught on the wind, there's no better example of that than Jose. Though he now owns one of the most successful kite schools in La Ventana, he spent most of his life traveling the world as a professional DJ.
Well, I come from Granada, which is a small town the south of Spain, southeast. From there, from the 90s, I started DJing in 1990.
Jose built his career up over many years. At his peak, he pretty well had it made, living a charmed life, getting paid to travel all over the world to DJ for wealthy elites and celebrities. By this point, he was basically one tier away from joining the major league of the world's headlining DJs. But as time went on, something held Jose back from pushing to achieve that level of success.
I did boycott myself, I think, because I realized that wasn't what my heart wanted. I wanted one thing in my head, but my heart wasn't taking me to that path.
After that, Jose threw his kite to the wind and drifted around the Western Hemisphere following his inspiration, staying with friends in different cities for weeks at a time and then moving on.
I think I was kind of finding myself more and more happy.
Eventually, Jose ended up in Mexico City. While DJing a party there, he met his future wife, Jessica.
I was touched when we met in one of these pool parties, and she actually stayed only for like an hour or something, and the party wasn't even started. She only came to say hi to the promoter, who was her friend, and from there, the whole thing is history.
Jose and Jessica lived together in Mexico City for about 2 years before they visited La Ventana for the first time on a vacation to kiteboard. They fell so deeply in love with the area that they decided to move there permanently.
I came to La Ventana to kiteboard because this is what I do as a hobby. And all of a sudden, we decided to buy a place here. We came, we live in an RV for a while with our dogs, and I started doing some lessons randomly on the beach for random people.
So to recap, at this point, the former globe-trotting professional DJ was living in an RV trailer with his wife and dog on an undeveloped lot in little old La Ventana, giving random kiteboarding lessons to strangers on the beach.
And I think that was a universe call to give me an opportunity to change my path. I think what I was wondering, I was looking, for nature, peacefulness, love, wilderness, which is here, La Ventana. So here I came and I started kind of again from zero. And it was really good. And as this career of kiteboarding was building up, my music career was fading down a little bit because I wasn't paying much attention. But I think I was already happy with this, and I made some kind of peace with that, and I realized it's fading, I need to take care of it, otherwise it's gonna go. But I thought inside myself, I'm happy, I don't really need it.
The way Jose describes his role as a kiteboarding instructor, it starts to become clear that to him, it's really not that different from being a DJ.
If you ask me, what do you do here? We don't really do kiteboarding. Although kiteboarding is the tool, we deliver experiences. And this is what I like. What I like is to entertain people. My purpose in life has been always entertaining people. I make people happy. I used to make people happy, and I keep making people happy, and I think they make me happy back. My dad used to say, if you think about that life works like a boomerang, if you send love, you receive love. If you send shit, you receive shit back to you. And if you do it hard, then you get a shit hard in your face, and it hurts, right? And I think when you give your best to people, you receive a lot of smiles.
Unlike Jose and Tino, most of the nomads who drift through La Ventana don't decide to call it home. They might stay for a few weeks, maybe even the whole season, but eventually they all head back over the mountain. And really, this is the way it has to be. La Ventana is too sacred. If too many people moved here, they'd burn up the gunpowder magic of this spiritual oasis. Hopefully that never happens. Hopefully the bay stays small and stark, wild and whimsical. And hopefully the only thing that ever looks crowded is the sky just off the beach on windy days.